All right, welcome everyone. My name is Marcin Kaczmarek, and I'm here to share with you some of my thoughts about how important business analyst role is, and give you some tips about how to be better at it. And in a way, spoiling the end conclusions, I do believe that this role will be more and more important. In short, why? Because if we want to make the world easier thanks to IT, then us, the ones creating the IT, have to understand its complexity that is actually growing now. So that's why there will be a lot of work for us. So why me? I'm in the software development business since 1998, and once I graduated the studies, I lived and worked in Germany, being there a Java developer until 2006. But already in 2005, I sort of realized my commitment from the recruiting talk I had in 2001. So I started a Polish branch of a Consilium company. Today we are like 40 people, mostly in Szczecin. And what we do is IT consulting plus custom software development. So that, okay. And apart from that, I do a lot of, let's say, pro bono work, also for the IT sector. This means since 2008, I'm a board member of our cluster IT. This is an association of 90 IT companies from the region. And since this year, I'm a CEO of this association. So hopefully, I'm speaking not only on behalf of my company, but also on behalf of many of them from there. So, has agile killed the business analyst role? The point is, how many of you business analysts, once you introduce yourself to someone and tell them that you are a business analyst, do you have the situation that they say, well, you must be a member of these, let's say, old-fashioned, boring, public sector type of projects? Do you have this? Okay. And did you ever hear things like, well, we are an agile software house. We no longer need business analysts. Has anyone heard that? Yeah? So my point is, yes, some say there's no official business analyst role in the agile development team. And others say, well, members of our development team talk directly one-to-one to the product owner. And well, yes, in a way, but the point is, this is, let's say, the conclusion drawn from that business analysts are no longer needed in agile teams is simply wrong. That's based on misinterpretation of the Scrum Guide. And same as testers or same as DevOps not being listed there as part of the development team, business analysts are also part of the process and should be there. I will later on emphasize more on the, let's say, example that happens quite often to many software houses, where a development team is meant as consisting only of real technical people, real software developers. And this leads to a number of situations that in the long run we want to avoid. So I will tell about this a bit more later. All right, so on the contrary to the question, I would say no, the BA will be needed even more. Okay, why? Well, in the perfect world, the product owner, and here I will have to add a disclaimer that most often we deal in my business with product owners on the customer side. So we are, as a vendor, the development team, and the product owner comes from the customer side. And how does it match with the typical requirements for a product owner? Of course, well, he should be more business than technical, and should be able to talk to people like his managers or even board to get the budget for the project, but also should be capable of talking to his own employees in terms of finding out the process that should be later on covered by IT. But, well, the assumption is he should also be able to talk to developers and be understood there. But even harder part is he should be available, and this is usually the critical bit that simply makes all the rest of problems much bigger. Then simply lack of time is usually the reason for product owner not playing his role in a proper way. And then such product owner should be empowered to make decisions. And the decisions should be on time. And of course, the decisions should be well thought through, meaning he should not only have the big picture in his mind, but he should understand the overall solution in details in order to make sure that everything is consistent and that it will actually work. So this is what we would expect from a product owner. Then he should be the guy that actually says, well, instead of writing you a wrong mail, I will simply come and talk to you. And if you have a problem and ask him questions, he should be the one that actually cares about it. And now the question to you, do you know such product owners that actually fulfill this role in a very good way? My point is, yeah, well, they are, such product owners are a really rare kind. So in order to deal with that, I will show you some tricks that many software houses do. Okay, then, the biggest problem as we see among the product owners is first lack of time, and secondly, lack of methods and tools that they should use in order to communicate properly with the rest of the development team. The misconception or the misinterpretation of the Scrum Guide that I mentioned before often leads to this situation where, there's a product owner and only software developers in the team. And, I'm surely not trying to offend developers here. Remember, I used to be one years ago. But the point is, such setup can only work if developers are really interested in the business goal of the project. They actually understand, meaning everyone understands the business domain, and they are able to get more details from the product owner once they need that. And of course, if the business domain is simple, yes, this can work. But our experience was, we used to have teams like this, they originated like this a few times. But the conclusion after some time was that usually the leader who felt most responsible for the project took on more and more of business analyst role, and at the end of the project, it turned out he almost didn't write a single line of code, but rather sort of took on this missing role naturally in order for the team to be able to continue work, to have enough knowledge about things that are meant to be done. So this didn't really work for us. And when I'm talking about, let's say, complexity of the projects, let me put it this way. If you think that this is hard, then try a MiFID II compliance project within a German bank. So this is what we often work with German institutions and quite often in the financial sector. So believe me, there are some projects where at the very start, you don't understand a single word the business people are telling you, because you've never sort of touched any of the, let's say, financial instruments that had to be MiFID II compliant in this very project. So, the more complex your domain gets, the more, let's say, BA is needed. And yeah. So knowing that the analysis part is needed in any part of project for the ones that love to quote Scrum Guide. My answer is that this quote, cross-functional teams that have all the competencies needed to accomplish the work, this is a place where actually a reasoning for a business analyst is. So in fact, in the agile world, you still need the DBA on 3 phases, both on and 3 levels. On the strategic level, in the project initiation phase, so we call it iteration 0, tactical one during the plannings, and during grooming and refinement. Sometimes we've seen setups where business analysts joined like a separate team together with the product owner, someone from the project management office, someone from the compliance team. They were forming a team called a value team or discovery team, and they would work on the product backlog separately before the items get to the development team. My question to you would be, how many of you work in a Scrum team and are officially positioned as business analysts? Okay, great. So what we've witnessed a number of times on the projects, that is, let's say that the whole analysis part is started together with the almost as at the same time as the development work, meaning there's not enough time to really do it properly. And there are some cases where such things can be done. We had an example where, for example, there was some trade show and customers needed a number of really pretty screens showing some real life data from the devices. So this really had to be software. And we said to the customer that, yes, well, we can skip the, let's say, the questioning part, but once we implement this, there should be a proper analysis part. And well, even though we warned him that most of the work we've done will probably be a throwaway, at the end he wasn't happy when after the trade show that was successful, we actually started the project in a proper manner, and then it turned out that the things he imagined, the screens we created, were on one side too general for one type of users, on the other side too detailed for other type of users. So we had to throw this away. So my tip, let's say, to many software houses: never ignore this iteration 0. Okay, have you seen this happening? The proxy product owner role on a project, mostly on the software vendor side. This is let's say a type of a workaround we've witnessed a couple of times. Well, what this person does is actually this person actually becomes part of the development team, is on the vendor side, and what's important, has time to learn all the business domain, and is able and knowledgeable enough to talk to technical people. Let's say the greatest benefit of having such person is that it's actually available, and well, instead of writing long mails, you can simply chat with this person. And if you have questions, the person feels responsible for the backlog items. And why this happens? Because if your product owner isn't, let's say, perfect, then in order to have the efficiency for in your development process, this is what many software vendors come up with. This is not a perfect solution, but one that actually works. But and if there are, let's say, software houses that think they don't really have business analysts, I would say that looking at what this person does, this probably is your best candidate for a business analyst. Okay, so I'm also willing to share some of the, let's say, tips about how I see that this role will change in the future and what skills will be needed to conduct it. So, why nearshoring to Poland works? This is an important question because, well, IT in Poland is booming. Mostly we work for foreign companies. Either they, most often they come here, they establish Polish branches, and they hire a lot of people. So, do you know, well, what will be the reasons for that? Some of you will probably would say that it's the price. Well, I would say working both on the Polish and the German side, price is not really an issue because we quite often pay to the Polish people more than we pay to the German ones. But it's actually the value for money of technical skills. This is something that is our advantage and will be still for a long time. By the way, a joke about software developers. Two developers meet each other and one says, well, I've heard you've lost a job. How is it to be unemployed? And the other one says, well, this was terrible. Actually, this was the worst half an hour of my life. So, second thing is, and this is what you learn from many people that actually work with number of offshore companies, that we have same work attitude and culture. So actually we sort of don't need to accept everything, and well, thanks to let's say our culture, we are not afraid to say no. And actually the art of saying no makes a lot of, let's say, is a topic of for another presentation, I would say, but in general, saying no and cutting down scope, not realizing many of the requirements is actually, let's say, very often good for the project from the business perspective. But this is something you can't get if you talk to offshore vendors. And yeah, in this aspect, there's actually a third reason. And here I'm gonna use a joke. It's, let's say, it's an exaggeration. It's unfair, but it sort of shows the idea. So there's a customer asking one vendor, a nearshore vendor, and one offshore vendor to build him a 5-wheel car. And the nearshore vendor, of course, asks the question, why? Why would you build a car with 5 wheels? And the offshore vendor answers, well, yes, but you should have in mind that it will be more expensive than the 4-wheel one. So the point is, because we live and do business in a very similar way, we are in the same context as many of our customers. This means, well, the offshore guys, they are not, let's say, less talented, less gifted, and so on and so on. They simply live in a bit different world, and it's hard for them to understand the context of the customer. So when the nearshoring to Poland works because that's our observation. Our customers don't need to tell us a lot about the surroundings, let's say the reasoning for particular decisions and so on. So this doesn't have to be explained, doesn't have to be written down. thanks to that, we are simply quick and efficient in proceeding. And the important part of, let's say, for business analysts, that actually showing the context and understanding it is your role. So that's your goal. But even though we are, let's say, good at it, there are some cases where we failed. So some stories from the project we've done. This is a fantasy sneaker league app. You can try it both on iPhones and Android phones. And the story is, like 2 years ago, there's a guy from Colorado to whom I was recommended, and he calls me and tells me, you know that there are thousands of people who actually invest a lot of money into sneakers. Sneakers are these, let's say, sports shoes. And there are limited editions of these sneakers that cost sometimes thousands or even tens of thousands dollars. And the prices of these sneakers change on a few times during the day. So he came up with an idea of, let's say, an app that simulates a stock exchange for sneakers. And you can play a game like that using this app. And when he was explaining that to me, I felt, well, okay, this time I feel out of context. This is something I could not imagine people are doing, but it is true. And actually, the trend is that there are more and more sneakerheads, so that these fans and people who invest into sneakers here in Europe. So this will be something we will see really soon as booming here as well. Okay, yeah, another. So this was a difference of context because of the location. But we had another example where we couldn't understand the context because the project was about, this was a beauty bar. So this is there's like a stand with some tablets, and this application is used in retail stores of a worldwide known cosmetic brand, mostly across US. And the application helps to select proper cosmetics for the makeup, and actually shows some movies and pictures about how to apply it, why to apply it, what will be the end effect. And of course, here the problem with context was that the development team was male only. Yeah, so they had, well, and the only word they knew was lipstick. And then they hear things like zalotka, which is an eyelash curler, and things like this. Well, this was first time I learned such words. So the point is, context is not always, let's say, related to culture or to geography. So it is sex-based as well. All right. Yeah. I want to show something that seems obvious, but let me put it this way. I come from Szczecin, and well, there are of course a few more recognized places in Poland that would be famous for having many ITOs and shared services, doing a lot of IT for worldwide known brands, and so on and so on. But, well, the most innovative projects are still done by the headquarters of these companies. And, well, actually a lot of economy is run by German companies. And this is important in the aspect of Szczecin because, yeah, we are like the outskirts of the city are 5 kilometers away from the border to Germany. So it's actually closer for us to travel to Berlin or to Copenhagen than to come to Warsaw. Therefore, Szczecin was always, let's say, in terms of doing business, way more focused on working with international companies and their headquarters than on the Polish business. Yeah? And additionally, let's say, this is again something unique. We have this thousands of sailors there, and this sort of changes the people attitude to traveling due to profession. So a lot more people from Szczecin are actually keen on traveling than you would, for example, find in Poznań. And thanks to this combination, it's actually very often that we get to work with these headquarters in Frankfurt, Berlin, or on other countries. But speaking from my experience, this would be mostly German companies. Well, let's say that the sectors that we work mostly, looking at a total of companies from the region, would be automotive, because plenty of software that you have in your cars has originated in Szczecin, and a lot of financial institutions from Germany has its software developed here as well. And another thing about projects is that, well, it's often not the software companies, but these consulting companies that are in the heart of innovation. So they are there on the strategy level when there is an idea of something or a problem named as to be solved, and they are in the process of creating the processes for it, and then there comes a time where it's given to some IT vendor. I'm lucky to be part of Consilium, so we actually often take part in things that later on you see as innovations done by, well, this particular, let's say, worldwide recognized enterprise. But that's very often done with the help of companies like ours. So, why am I talking about the German market? Because first of all, I know this market because I've lived there for like 5 years. And secondly, this used to be a market where there was a lot of software development companies still many years ago. And it has changed, and I think it might be the case that sooner or later this change will affect Polish market as well. So what's, let's say, special there? First of all, it's very hard for German companies, the big ones, to let's say keep the talent inside as internal employees. Very often they use external help, either in the form of freelancers or in form of consulting companies. So there is a, let's say, very popular role created there, which is like this all-in-one, one-man army type of IT consultant. And surprisingly, this is not a software developer anymore. Very many of these people are not writing lines of code. They are graduates of Wirtschaftsinformatik, which is the IT in economy, and what they do is actually mostly business analysis work, then solution design, but that's not enough. Being in this consultant position, they need to sort of bind it with a lot of mentoring and coaching in order to get people to let's say, answer the right questions, and business advisory mixed with IT advisory. So why this is, let's say, important? In Germany, this is really a huge market. This is as these people are closest to the customers and closest to starting the projects, this initiation phase. These are the roles that are way better paid than developers. And of course, this is a demanding one. So this requires a lot of traveling. Of course, in Germany, it requires German-speaking skills and so on and so on. But sooner or later, such roles will be way more popular in Poland as well. Some tips about how to, let's say, improve the skills of a business analyst from the perspective of the projects we do. So first thing is, how many of you had this customer that wants everything with top priority and so on and so on. Yeah, this is the regular thing. Yeah? So some of the questions that may be helpful in, let's say, prioritizing or dropping some of the requirements. So the point is, our role is no longer to just note down all the wishes of the customer and blindly realize it. Yeah? What's expected is that we actually will be this partner that asks questions and sometimes says no. I witness this quite often, that my customers tell me, why are you asking so many questions? I thought I'm coming to a software vendor. Yeah? But the point is, only if you ask these questions, you know that this idea, well, let's say, is thought through and makes sense from the business point of view. So the project actually is reasonable to realize. Yeah? So in order to help such customers, we ask these let's say, very hard questions like why. And this is, it seems obvious, but if you talk to a lot of product owners and ask him this question, you will learn that the answering of this question isn't always easy. So you need to play this, let's say, in a gentle way, sometimes giving him time to actually come up with a proper answer, because in a business world, it's not always that the people ask these questions themselves before they make a decision. Okay, and another thing is, what's the business goal behind it? And then this is one that helps to sort of align the long list of tasks that the customer imagined at the very beginning with the real business goal. And what we say very often that to the customers, that you should be aware of one thing. Your goal is okay, but the idea for solution that you have is probably wrong. So let's work together on creating a solution that actually can realize your business goal in some reasonable manner. Okay, then another thing that, all right, do not look at, let's say, people in the organizations as actors that do not have emotions. There's a lot of, let's say, hidden habits, hidden concerns behind the requirements. The questions that are worth to ask is, what's in it for you? And would this be still important if people would be different? This is how you eliminate all those questions, all those issues with, I don't like this person, so I need to control him more, and so on and so on. We've often witnessed such situation. So this is how you sort of help to really bring it to some objective level. And I've seen this happening, that many of these top priorities features, once you ask the question, what will you achieve? So how will you commit to this idea? If we do all this work and actually deliver this, how will this, let's say, improve your life, and what will you achieve for the organization using this? So this helps to lower the priorities number of times. Okay, the killer features. How you deal with this? Well, we often put it into context of organization. So first, in order to make sure that the feature is not there not just because someone likes it, and that's very often the case, but in order that it somehow fits into project goals, ask this question. But actually, the IT costs of developing a feature is very often just a tiny bit. So if you think about what other departments must do in order for this particular feature to actually work and to bring value, if you show this effort and the time needed for that, very often it lowers the priority of many backlog items. And yeah, the question that not many people ask, what happens if we don't do it? Yeah, so this one actually does magic on number of product owners. So have a checklist and show not only the solution, but show to your team also the objectives. Let them commit on a, let's say, solution level. If you name the requirements, point the stakeholders that named it so they can reference to that and get more details. That's your main task. Actually, be the one who knows the business best and think about corner cases and acceptance criteria. That's where your QA can help you, but this is what must be handled. And be the one that filters everything. So not only has the big picture, but also does the consistency check before you give an item for the development. And care about the glossary. So have one glossary for business team and jointly with the technical team. On German projects, we often have the wordings, the nouns in German, and this helps a lot because everyone speaks the same language. So we speak, say, within the English sentences, we use German nouns. And name the communication paths with whom one should discuss a particular topic. Teach the business people how to use your tools, because we've number of times witnessed that if you allow them to use your tools, they will give you much better input for you, better thought through. Then, in order to verify the understanding of what you've delivered, and you should do this because otherwise, if people don't understand your documentation, they will simply consider it a waste, and that's not a goal. Yeah, that's not your goal. Documentation isn't a goal on its own. Yeah? It should serve a purpose. So, in order to verify it, ask questions, and there's a number of, let's say, tricks you can play in order to make sure that everyone on the team has actually read this. And you are the one who should care about, let's say, people being able and willing to talk. So care about this. Okay. All right. Just one sentence. If you think your business domain is easy and you don't need a BA, then probably very soon either this will end in offshore country or as an automated thing. So focus on the complex project, and let's say the amount of complexity within the projects will be growing. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Thank you very much, Marcin.